Excellent, that looks like we have managed to go live. It's always helpful. There we are, let's just pop that over there out of harm's way. And let's just give it a little bit of time. Why not, why not, why not, why not, why not? There we are. There we are. What do we want? That one will do. And that one will do. Excellent. Let's just see what happens and whether we have any company today. There's always an interesting activity. There's never any guarantees as to that we'll have any company, and that's just fine. The make is ready to make regardless, so we will continue to do just that. I appreciate it's a bank holiday Sunday and it's a nice day, and there may be lots of people outside. There we are. Let's just click round to the correct time. Have I got everything? I think I might. Good afternoon, Sue. Hello, Sheila. It's looking like there is the average horrendous delay between everything today on Facebook, so if I miss comments, don't answer, please don't think I'm being rude. It'll be just the way it is. It definitely has cooled down. I haven't got to have my doors open today. If you could just confirm that you can see and hear me okay. There we are. That'll be lovely. Good afternoon, Sarah. Thank you for joining me. That is always much appreciated. So I have a new collection of products today. I've got the Mermaid's Tale from Prima that's been designed by Stacey Young, all from 3 girls, so who have lots of different things, and we're going to be doing a bit of mixy matching across things. Good afternoon, Crafty Jacks. Hello, and that looks like Sarah, you've tagged Julie. Thank you so much. So I've got my usual 35 tons of rubbish stroke craft stuff on my desk, so let's start making. Facebook is definitely delayed in its process. Thank you so much for confirming that, Sheila. Much appreciated. I'm sure I got out metallic paint a minute ago. Oh, I did. I do. So a Mermaid's Tale has colours of turquoises and purples and lots of different shades of blue in between. So we're going to have a bit of fun, I think of course we're going to have a bit of fun. So let us start with the mermaid, and I really like this because it's from the back, so I don't have to worry about eyes or faces, and we only need just a tiny bit of this because there's an arm poking out on just one side that I feel would benefit from being a skin tone, and that is compact powder from Pentart. And there we are. So let's just pop this into here, and then we can paint in this bit. We might have to come back to it, but there we are. And it's the joy of this I don't think it's uber complicated to paint this. There are some florals in the hair that might take a bit more work, but there we are. Let's just clean that off with that baby wipe, and then we can bit by bit work our way through some of these pieces. So let me have a think about what I'm going to do. I have ice blue. Let me give this a shake. It's been sitting on the side for quite a while, and it's a lovely pale blue. can hear that the acrylic medium has separated out of it, and that's never good. So let's just give it a shake. There we are. So, and let's have a little thing. So the Mermaid's Tale is a big mould, has a big mould in the collection, which is lovely. These have been cast from resin and then primed with white gesso just to make my life a bit easier. So let's just have these bottles in a pale blue colour, and there's lots of different elements in this mould. Let me just paint in there, which makes it a good value for money, because the bottles you could use on any themed. Quite happily, the coral can be used for anything. There are some really cute seahorses, and there are also some there's a turtle. I do have a thing about turtles, I have to say. I do. There we are. That rope will get sorted. Yeah, and so lots of different elements in here that I think will make the mould really usable long term for multiple projects. I've actually cast some of the items twice, so I've already, just with one make, will have had a good value for money. Bottles come in 2 sizes. This might be a little bit more of a challenge because there is a second rope around the neck of that one, but hey ho, we'll tackle that afterwards. We can pop that in, the detail in that, with a bit of dry brushing probably, rather than having to paint it all in, just because a rope is meant to be is classically brown doesn't mean that that's what it has to be. So how's your weekend been, everyone? Have you had a lovely time with the bank holiday? Have you spent some nice quality time with family, or have you been quietly reading a book in the garden? There we are. Okay. So that will do for that one for the moment. Yeah, remember the days. Bonsoir, Michelle. Good afternoon, Deborah. Hello, Miriam. What hour is it in the States? So, let us start with adding some extra colour onto our mermaid. So by working like this, we're going to be able to add lots of layers, lots of interest, and I'm just going to add in a base coat of ivory for the hair. It won't stay that colour, but we'll just put a base layer of colour in. We can add in, build the layers. It's easier then, isn't it? So if we get the background done, some parts of this will be showing and some parts will not, but that's okay. It's easier to paint the whole thing and then worry about the rest and what we're going to have on display or not on display. I definitely think it's easier to get base layers of colour down first. And I know there's florals there. I'm just going to paint all over them in that ivory, because it's going to just provide me a base colour to build from. I have a plan. You'd expect me to have a plan, but it needs that to dry, which is cool. There we are. 9 AM. Yeah, so you are 3 takes us to 12. 6 hours behind us then. Okay, where was I going with that thought process? Oh, I know. Yeah, and I might not use those. I've got homogeneous shells which weren't not in my original plan, and if I do decide to use them, they're prepped. I might just paint them at that point before I put them onto the project, or might add them after. Right, let's hope that there's some brown left in this pod, and if not, wow, it may be. That'll be another pot for the bin. This is actually a Prima mould. It's a Prima redesign mould, darling. A Prima Marketing one rather than a Prima redesign. So yeah, cool. Hi Stephanie, welcome. See where? Ooh, did I quite want 3 tons of that out? No. And why has that happened? Oh, it's in there. I am just working my way through lots of pots of paint. So let's just add in for our ship's wheel some colour. And yeah, I know I've got quite a small brush today, but that's okay. It's got a nice soft nib, or soft set of bristles, and it's just going to allow me to push things in and under, and I'm not going to stress too greatly about it. Yeah, there are lots of mermaid moulds on the market, but I have to say I quite like this. It's more whimsical, less sea goddess, but maybe that's just the way I feel about it. I don't know. There we are. We just need to be patient. Patience is a virtue. There we are. So let's just carry on bit by bit. And I'm using my products that I normally use. I do have some Finnabair paints out, but I don't know. The liquid acrylics are translucent, and you can get some beautiful shading with them, to be fair, but they're not my favourite activity to use. And we'll just plod our way around this quite happily. There we are. And yeah, there's no point in doing all the painting off the live, otherwise we will people won't understand what I'm doing and why. Might not want to understand what I've done and why, but hey ho, that's also another thing, isn't it? There we are. I'm going to say some of this will inevitably get covered because of the plan that I have for using it. But that's also okay. And I suppose it would make sense if I took that off there and didn't actually paint that directly over my other moulds, because that's when I'm going to end up with paint where I don't want it, no doubt. So I've had very helpful daughters today, and her boyfriend have been over for the weekend, and they have been very helpfully emptying out a garage. My loving husband, as we know, has been very poorly. He's always been a bit of a hoarder. Am I as part of the problem? Yeah, probably. And we just need to get the garage under control. And I know that a year ago I emptied masses out, took it all to the tip. Well, a year later, the bits that we didn't get sorted out because are now all overflowing everywhere. So yeah, we're having to have another mammoth tidy up, and another declutter session, but that's okay. And I might just have to pay them to come and empty out my entire conservatory at some point, so that this gets properly decluttered. Because the joy of them doing it is that they have no emotional investment in the products. So if it looks naff, they'll throw it or put it for recycling. And they're of a generation where, do you want this? No. Can we sell it? What's it worth, Mr. Google? And they'll get on and sort the photographs and the rest of the hassle out for me, which is even better. We will soften this colour, I think, ultimately, but there we are. So that I've got a collection of florals. They might prove a challenge for my painting, but hey ho, and they may require us to be here for a wee while, but okay, people can come and go as they please. You don't have to watch the whole thing. But we're going to be doing a multi-layered piece. There we are. And with lots of the products from the release. It's not very often I buy Prima, to be fair, but I do like this collection, and they are fabulous quality. So that's always a bonus, isn't it? Prima are moving to have stuff that is much more limited edition, so just be aware of that. Now then, have I got out metallic blue, a grey for the anchor? Of course I haven't. Because why would I do that? Let's go sparkling silver for the metal. Because water themed activities, of course, do allow us to use a bit of sparkle, don't they? And I normally would put the metallics on top of a black background, but a little bit of transparency here will work to our advantage, so I'm not going to be overly worried about that. Right, and then I just have to work out what is rope, what is part of the anchor, what is chain. Hello Helen, welcome. There we are. So yeah, it might be a bit of a challenge today. There's certainly a lot of detail in these moulds, and I'm going to fish out a paler brown than the chocolate I think I've used for the ship's wheel for the rope, just because I think it's going to work better. There we are. But these are rather lovely. There we are. For those of you that don't know, Helen Louise is owner of a shop, but she also is the distributor for Prima in the UK, and just like Home Interiors is where I buy my resin from. I like the way the Amazing Casting resin behaves. It may not be the cheapest resin on this planet, but it for me gives me the best pot time for use, and also allows me to have a resin that will set relatively quickly, so that's always very helpful. There we are. Let's just do that, and let's help hazelnut. They're still in the middle of sorting it, but they're currently on a rubbish tip run, and my daughter is then going to cook tea. Hey! It's not very often she volunteers to help tea. Usually means she wants something. Oh, right, let us swap to a finer brush. Oh, she says, and dunk that one in there. See, some of these paints are definitely getting to the point of being horrible, but there we are. But let's use these up, because waste not, want not. We're not going to rush things, because I'd like, like my pieces to look good. Do I think we always do our best work when we're live? No, I don't. I think that the tendency is for us to rush things, mindful of the time, and I always feel that it pays to be kind to creatives when they're working live, because the reality of life is that things go wrong. Things may not be quite as they intended. Let's just give that a little cork. And we can add some wax anyway. There we are. So all I'm doing is picking out the details that are in the moulds. There's nothing, there's all the information I need for this painting here, and I've taken my colour palette pretty much from the papers that I'm using. If you're going to do these without using the papers, of course you can then paint these them any colours that you want. There isn't necessarily a right and there isn't necessarily a wrong, but as I'm going to be using the papers from the collection, we'll go with colours that I think will work and blend nicely with that. In a way, I'm thankful not having to. Yeah, it does help not. Well, you just have to go with it, don't you? Really. I've got probably too much storage space, and that means that we have a habit of hoarding, and that's also not good. I've actually got comments coming through today, which is fun. I think I've eventually worked out why. If I go live in Crafting Together with all brands, I don't get the comments appearing on my feed on my computer, whereas if I'm going live for myself, they do. Yes, who would know that there might be a logic in what Facebook do? Might not be my idea of logic, but hey ho. Right, let us see if we can fish out the details. Excuse the pun. Right, let's just take some of that paint off there and add in there we go. I need a wetter brush so it moves over the piece. There we are. So lots of details on this. And of course, if you're not worried and people aren't going to pick up your piece and have a really good look at it, then you don't need to fret too much. Good evening, afternoon, Dee. I trust that you are well. There we are. We've got it's the Lee Papercraft show today, which I would normally go to, but sometimes life is just too busy, and I just didn't have the time, and I needed to be around for my daughter and boyfriend. So there we are. So there's a limit to what I trust them to do in terms of throwing out stuff. There we are. at least Tom understands what the tools are and how they're used, and he can work out whether they're worth saving or not. Most of them haven't been used for more years than I'd care to think about, and they've definitely seen better days. But if he can rescue them, he will do. There's an added incentive because I've told them if they can sell, if there's stuff that we don't need that they can sell on, they can have the money. It's always good, a bit of bribery, isn't it? Right, let's just add in. Yeah, we've managed to miss a bit of that with that black, so let's just add in some rope here. There we are. It's more natural roped colours, I think. And then we'll fish out the that black, the sparkling silver. It's got a metallic tone to it, and although I will always say to you, yeah, do them in do the metallics on a black background, you can see that actually I've got reasonable coverage by doing it on the white background. There we are. And it's just a question of taking your time. I know, who'd have thought? I think there might be another bit of rope there. There we are. Okay, let's just pop that lid onto there. Pop that onto there. We can always get it back out if we want to, but I don't think we're going to need that again. Let's just add in that extra bit of black. My preferred resin is Amazing Casting Resin by Illuminite, because it gives me the depth I want. I can tell visually when it's ready to, when it's properly mixed, because it changes from when you mix the two components. It goes cloudy, and as it clears, everything becomes crystal clear, and it just makes life easy. There we are. So that's that bit on there. I can see another bit there that's missed, but we'll pick that up. Oh, that, ladies, was a pigeon. I know, who would have thought? But that was a pigeon sliding down the polycarbonate roof. Right, so mermaidial. Do we want dark? Do we want turquoise? Do we want we want shiny. Of course we want shiny. Let's go for these two, because they're completely different products. So this is sparkling blue, which is the metallic, and this is sparkling gel in blue silver. So it's a blue base that's semi-transparent with some silver in it. But I think those two will work quite nicely for us. So let me just move the bits that I'm going to want to do in the blues, in these blues down, and then we'll concentrate on doing florals and the other bits. So there we are. Let's just pop this into here. We'll have a little bit of that. I've still got some black on my brush, which is fine because that will give me some shadows, and then it's just mixing some of that. It'll soften that because it's really quite a bright blue, but by mixing the two together I'm going to get a bit of shimmer, a bit of colour blending, a bit of depth. That the sparkling silver really is quite a dark colour, and that's just fine. We'll just add in some of that. We can lighten That's easy enough to do. We can add shimmer on the top. So let's just pop that dark into the depths of there. I'm going to pop it into the depths of there. And then we'll colour blend it out with the paint. I won't carry on doing too much of that, because if I do I will end up with it being dry, and then of course it won't blend. There we are. And of course I'm being naughty because I'm contaminating my pots, but that's okay. They're my pots and that won't worry me long term. There we are. So I've got some shades added into there. Let's just add some more of that blue and pick up some of that into there. There we are. I will lift out the worst of that, I think, but it's just giving me some natural blending of my colours. Let me just, before we have that too contaminated long term, pop that over there, and then we can pick up that blue so we have some better shading. There we are. Yeah. That works, or I think. Let's just cover that bit and remove the bit of yuck that we've got managed to acquire along the way. There we are. Yeah, cool. Right, that's while these are out, let's just do these. This just says Mermaid's Tale. I appreciate that you won't be able to see that it says Mermaid's Tale when I'm giving it a nice layer of that dark blue paint. And we're going to mix up our metallics and our mattes and our sparklings because we've got water, so why not? There we are. I've no idea how long this project's going to take me. We might be here a wee while. On the other hand, we might not. There we are. So you can see that actually that metallic is covering quite nicely, even though I'm covering directly over white. It has been gessoed, to be fair, but I would typically say if you're using metallic, paint over black gesso. But you know, you don't absolutely have to. There's going to be enough sparkle in this as it is. So let's see who has come in. That's always slightly difficult. There we are. Hi Debbie. Hi Anna, welcome. That's okay. There we are. Good afternoon Connie, welcome. Hello Isabel. There we are. Right, yeah, it is sometimes difficult to keep track of everyone who's coming in. I'd never want anyone to feel that I was ignoring them, but it's quite difficult to keep track of a comment stream when we're also painting, and that requires you to have your heads down so you can see what's going on. There we are. Let's just pop that onto there and get that last bit of that under. There we are. So back. I can see another bit that I've missed on there, but that's okay. Well, we're going to be adding and layering. So let's lid some of these pieces, because we've still got reasonable amount to do. And let's just pop some of this visual noise out of the way, because it can be very, very distracting. What colour shall we have our seahorses? Let's go sparkling greeny gold, because we can, with some delicate in bluish silver, because why not? Why not? And then we can think about doing the more detailed stuff. So let's just pop, let's swap to a brush that is not going to take me quite so long to paint this. So this is a beautiful colour, this greenish bluish sparkling colour. We're not going for visually realistic, but that's okay, we don't have to. Let's just pop this. So this is what, about 2 inches long. Quite a lot of the moulds, the seahorses have just been very big, which is fine, but you know, there's definitely, you know, you don't always need big, do you, in a piece. There we are. So let's just be naughty again, because we can. There we are, and let's just add in some of this for the belly. We might do a little bit more colour blending there. So we've got two-toned and move that out a little bit and just soften that junction with our fingers, because why not? Why not? It's quite like that. Let's see if we can do a similar sort of thing for the babies. These are about 1 inch long, so not very long. Right, let's just make sure we've got some of that spark. Yeah, as I say, these are again products that you won't see me get out and use that often. I'm not really a sparkle girl. I know, who'd have guessed I wasn't a sparkle girl, but I'm not. But I do, you know, I've got plenty of metallic-y, sparkly things in my stash. It's just I don't use them very often. So water theme projects are definitely a good reason for having them out. There we are. And you notice I'm avoiding tackling the idea of all of the flowers that are there, because they're going to be difficult. That's okay. Let's lift that. Let's lift that. No, I haven't been to Lee, darling. The kids sorting out the garage was way more important. I messaged the traders that might have expected me, that I've worked with over the years, and let them know that I wasn't going to get there. So let us see. So in the papers they have coral, or seaweed, which is this greeny colour, and then we've got it purple here. So it's difficult, I don't know quite, you know, we can go either which way. So as I'm going to be using the green on the leaves, I think we're just going to go simple, and we're going to actually dilute some of this down. It's just water, and then we can just do this as a wash, because it will stay darker in the depths, because I won't be able to wipe it back from there, but it's just it's an easy way then of just adding some colour variation without having to do too much work and effort. So there we are. Let me just take a cloth. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And then we can just pull back a little bit, and then that's just given me that really simply added in. There's always, reasons why some things are just fortuitous, aren't they? Dee and I often go to the papercraft show at Dee together, but there we are. So that simple way of painting and then wiping back. It's watered down acrylic paint. It will take a bit longer to dry because I've watered it down, but it just added the water just give me a bit more working time, and means that I can work it back, and I can add my low lights, highlights and shades in between in one move, as opposed to having to grab another 2 or 3 products to do it. But yeah, I do have the other products, clearly I do, but there we are. But it just does make life just interesting. There we are. So that, just wipe it back. So those are sitting there like so. Right, let us tackle the flowers. Could be a little bit more challenging. So let's swap to a small brush, and then we can see if we can work out what are the leaves and what are the flowers. That might be equally challenging. Okay, so let's just add some leaves. That brush is okay. I think that's meant to be a leaf. If it's not, we'll soon find out. You can't have flowers without leaves, can you? So there we are. We'll add some bits that hopefully are leaves, but if they're not, no one else is going to be any the wiser. I think that's a leaf there. Might help if I put my glasses on, of course. Oh, sorry, yeah. I think that might be the leaves on there. The leaves on this piece are a bit easier, I think. Famous last words, isn't it? Famous last words, but there we are. Flower, leaf, who knows? These are definitely leaves. There we are. With spiky bits. We're not doing so badly. We've only been painting 42 minutes. I guess that's probably pretty normal for a live with me, isn't it? I think that's a leaf there. Doesn't look like it's a floral element, and we can have a bit of that there. Flower leaves, yeah. It won't matter, I guess, if we can always come back in if we have to change our minds and add some colours in. Paint over if we realise that we've painted something green that we actually want a different colour. Right, let's just have this bit green. So yeah, hello Kelly. Welcome, my darling. Welcome. I have to say, I don't know how much. I know I got my delivery super quick. I suspect that I might have got it quicker than some of the ladies in the US, which will be a major miracle, because usually stuff coming in from the States into the UK just takes us forever to get it after launch, but it was already in the UK. Right, I think that's still a leaf in there, so I'm just having to work out what is leaf and what is flower, so that I can see. And actually, to be fair, the more I'm painting, the easier it becomes to work out what is flower and what is leaf. There we are. Now then, that one is okay. This one might be more of a challenge. I thought we might leave that to the next stage. So, for that one, before I do the next, so I have some burnt sienna, which is a liquid acrylic, and they're incredibly pigment dense. You can see how dark it is, yeah, so it goes from almost inky black to here, and we're just going to pop it in, and it's going to sit into the depths of here so that the hair becomes, all that texture becomes visible. And I might not so worry about the flowers. There are flowers up there. I'm very much aware that there are flowers in here. So this is where having the liquid acrylics really makes a big difference. So I can pop that in, let it settle down. I'll get more settling in the depths. So that's now become a little bit different. And I can now pop that into there, because I can see where my flower is meant to be. So in the paper collection there are blues and pinks and purples. So let us go with country blue and pastel violet. Good grief, a new pot. It's okay, we're a reasonable time out actually, so let's just take some of that pastel violet, and then let's just add in, we might, that also has been sitting around, that needs a good shake. I can feel the texture on the surface is wrong, so that's been sitting out in my garage for the best part of 18 months. So I can hear, I don't know if you can, just how liquid that is. Well, that's a good way of exercising the bingo wings, isn't it? There we are. And you'll be able to see the difference in the consistency between my newer paints and my older paints. Let's just pop those over there. Let's tuck that out over there for the moment. We will need that back. And actually, let's just clear that whilst the going is good. And I can see that I need to add in some brown back onto there. And let me just add that into there, because I can see bit areas that I've clearly missed on there. Right. Right, let's just give that a good wash. Having a swap back, and we'll move that over. We're not going for complicated techniques today, so let's just add in a flower in this pretty purple colour, because it is just a pretty purple. There we are. let's just add, there's a flat, that's a definitely one flower shape, and that's another flower shape, and we're definitely going to need a bit more green into there, but that's okay. Let's just add a little bit of that into there. Right, let us add a flower into there. Let's go for the blues. So we've got a smaller flower here. We're going to add some dry brushing in a minute, so that will absolutely help. Help bring out the details. So there's just some bluey flowers going into that one. There we are. I said, I know what I said, we're going to need a bit more of that into there, didn't I? So let's just pick up that green whilst the going is good and add that in. I love nautical. I'm definitely, my happy place is being in the water. The only exercise I vaguely like is being in a swimming pool. There we are. So let's pop that into there. Let's just add, see if we can find the leaves that are on the back of here. There we are, a little bit of greenery on there. There might be meant to be a blue flower in there. Well, let's just add a little bit of blue into there. So I'm thinking that the blue flower might actually be better. There we are. Okay. And then we might be naughty today, but it's not something I'd recommend globally. But I'm not going to be antiquing, I'm not going to be rubbing back. I have pre-primed these nicely with gesso, so we should get away with it. But if you want stuff to survive really long term, then ladies do, varnish between afterwards before popping these things onto your projects. You'll just get a far better finish if you do that. I'm going to add in some purple down into here just to change the colours up a little bit. There we are. Okay, donkey cokey, let's just tidy up some of that green. That one. Some of this isn't really going to be visible on the piece, so I'm not going to worry too hugely, but about some of it. Right, excellent. Let's just lid some of these piles. So that is, and then, as I say, clear the visual clutter off here. Get the right lid on the right things. There we are. There we are. There we are. There we are. That can go over there. So, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Right, we need to add let's just have a little clear down of this lot, and then we're going to have something to dry brush with. So let's just clear that mess, because the dry brushing and some extra sparkle will absolutely revolutionise things. So that is a small brush, and let's go Let's go for white. Tiny bit of paint on there, ladies. Tiny. So let's just bring that rope to life. There we are. That makes such a difference. And because we've done these in stages, we've got everything dry. There we are. So that makes life easy. And of course, just because I'm dry brushing with, I thought I had another one of those little bottles. I do have another one of those little bottles. There we are. There we are. Yeah, let's just knock some of that back. Bring out some of the details in there. There we are. Right. That's always going to be a challenge to dry brush on the top of the metal, which I might not really want to be dry brush. I might have to come back in and repaint some of that, but that's okay. To be fair, I'm not actually quite liking the way that's looking. It's just antiqued that metal down and softened it a little bit, so that's good. We'll go for that. We'll go for that. So when you look over here, it's barely visible that there's any extra detail in here, but by the time I dry brush, you can suddenly see all of that extra detail that's there. Just makes such a difference, just bringing out that surface detail. And again, it mutes that white, that brown, which was quite in your face, down. There we are. And let's just add that over the florals. They're not quite dry, my bad. But let me just it says that's fine. Well, let's just give those a proper brush dry, just that they're not, these flowers are not dry enough for me. So I'm moving my colour when I do that. That might work. There we are. That's better. So now I've picked up what I want. I just made a big difference by doing that and making sure it was dry. There we are. Okay. So let's just take a little bit of white onto our seaweed fronds. There we are. Excellent. Painting accomplished, ladies. Who would have known it? Only got 55,000 tons of product out, but that's right, let's get rid of that. Let's just give this a little bit of a tidy up wipe, and then we can see what we're doing. We'll have a clean brush. Hello Melina, welcome. I'm afraid I don't speak. Oh, well that's different. There we are. I can good. There we are. Right. Wow. Who would have known it? A change that Facebook made that's actually quite helpful. So welcome, Melina. Thank you, Melina from Greece. I've managed to use Translate on my computer, which is helpful. That's the first time that's appeared up in my life. Read comment. And I'm glad that you are joining us and that you like nautical projects. I love nautical projects. Right. Excellent. So that is not so bad. We do need a bit of sparkle, and we are going to have a bit of... Look at the state of these hands. Honestly, what am I like? Let's just give these hands a jolly good clean, and then we'll find some waxes for some of it, but not all of it, because we're not getting out. I've got some distressing mediums, so I actually really quite like the way that liquid acrylic has worked. So, did we put a little bit of dry brushing on there? No, we didn't. Right. So I'm just going to use my finger on there for that floral. There we are, that's better. Suspicion of a floral in the hair. Right. Right, eeny, meeny, money. And we need who doesn't need a bit of sparkle in their lives? So, a mermaid's tail. Not that you can see that that says a mermaid's tail, I'm sure. So this is just silver wax, which I'm going to pop over the top of there. Again, silver's not one of my go-to colours, but there we are. So that works. That's now shouting at me a mermaid, and then we'll pop that onto there, and that says tail. But for the mermaid, I've got something called sparkling silver, and it's just going to add a little bit of a shine on top of here. It's always a very soft wax, this one, and I've put way too much. It's just going to capture that, and I can knock back some of it. There we are. So it's just adding a silvery watery light onto the top of there. I don't need it on there, but I want some gold wax. I know, multiple products. 1, 2, 3. 12 so far. I know. I'm a lucky girl. So let's just add in a little bit of gold. Gently pick up some of the details, all there. There we are. Like, I'm just going to put up a little bit onto our flowers. There we are. Good. Right, let's just now yeah, wow. You know, the good Lord gave us or nature gave us hands well before she gave us paintbrushes. And if you pick things up to hold, it's inevitable, I think, that you are going to end up with muck on your mitts. Right, let's just clear some mess. Partly because I just need room now to bring up the next bit. That'll be fun, because we're going to pull everything out the way, and then have to reassemble it all. Because that's what we do. No problem, Dee. No problem. Let's just tidy up this mess. Alright, let's pick up a board. And let's just hope you can see it all. So, let's just do some disassembly. None of this is glued down whatsoever. There we are. There's some clues in amongst here. I never go live without having had a bit of a play to know where I'm going with my mates, because that to me is asking for trouble. We've got white in here, so I'm not going to worry about inking edges. If that bothers you, then please do. Let's stick that over there, that over there. We've got lots of bits. Let's stick that one over there. You see lots and lots and lots and lots of layers. Right, good. We won't need them. We will need them. We won't need that. So the first thing I'm going to do, this is from the paper pad. It's beautiful, beautiful. And the opposite side has card toppers, 6 of them. You could do other things with them. So let us just start by taking that cutting edge off, and I'm recycling an old board because that's what we need to do. And we're just about going to have it in shot, I think. There we are. Just take that off there. That piece, in the depths you found your dreams, can clearly be used for other things. So let's just pop that over there into the pack of paper, because why not? And we're going to be extravagant. I could have painted a background, but sometimes life is too short, and today is one of those days. Okay, so we're going to glue this onto here. Okie dokie. Hopefully you can see it all. So glue, glue, glue. I have glue. There we are. Good. And let's just move it over a little bit so that hopefully we're off screen. So I'm just going to be very extravagant. I know this is extravagant. You know, you could do whatever you wanted at this stage. You definitely don't have to. And Prima very kindly, because they know what crafters are like, get that we find it difficult to choose. So their pack of 12 by 12s has 2 of each paper. Their 8 by 8s I think have 3 or more. Anyway, lots, you know, so you don't have to make a decision. I am making a decision because I'm not going to use those for cards, and so I'm going to pop that onto there. It's a 12 by 12 inch board. It could be a canvas. I've done this so it can go in a frame. And let's just give that a little push down, make sure it's adhered reasonably well and central. There we are. Let's slide that down a little bit. There we are. And let's just give that glue time to grab. Glue is gluey, but glue is wet and slippy, so you just need to give it the time to settle down. And then, ladies, I got my craft knife out, and I have chopped out this piece. If I move that out of the way, yeah, I fussy cut that lot out. I did take a craft knife to it. And I'm really sorry, but I can't be doing with that white edge on some of those pieces. So let us just find a little ink, and I'm just going to do the bits that are going to irritate me, because lots of it isn't going to show anyway. There we are. But I know some of the bits will show, so let's just do that. Now then, I want to build a composition, okay, and a layer and detailing. So, and I need a platform for adding stuff in, okay, and I want a composition that's based around here, and that needs a stable black platform. So, horror of horrors, what have I got? I've just got some chopped up grey board. Okay, and we're just going to build this layer, because by adding dimension, it naturally will give you your shadows. And that's it means you then don't have to go into that without. Now that I've put some foam tape onto there, and I think that that is then going to allow me to sit that on there overlapping. Yep. But I needed to do that up front. So let's see if we can now get the back off the pesky foam tape, because it's never easy to do that. And there we are. So we'll just take all of these bits off, and then we're going to add some three-dimensional glue gel, because it's going to add some security and stop some of the places sagging. If you don't add your glue gel when you're doing things like this, then you will find that things dip and sag, and it's a look, but it might not be the one you want. Okay. So let's just grab our pin flat, which is a dimensional glue, and I'm just going to pop some extra bits of this to support some of these areas, particularly around the edges. Of here, and then we're going to flick that over, line that up. There we are. There we are. And I can tip that down at the edges and squash it. Okay, so I've now got a stable base and a mess, but that's okay, because it's not going to stay like that. Okay. So I sort of know where I'm going. If I can remember where I'm going, that would also be quite good. So I just have a little bit of gauze, aka net. Yeah. So that's the first thing we're going to pop onto here, because that's going to help diffuse that. Okay, the next challenge is going to be our mermaid, who I want to be higher up than there, and glue gel is going to allow me to do that. And then, because I'm going to use a big globs of glue gel, I can then drop her where I don't want her. I can tuck things in underneath and over and disguise things up. And I just need to remember not to give that too big a push at this stage, because if I do, then it'll, cause me a little bit of a headache. Right, icky sticky Mickey Mutts. So let's just get rid of that, and then let's just start building. Can I remember where this lot went? Does it matter? Absolutely not. So these are die cuts from the collection, and I need to do a little bit of creative accountancy around this lot. So I can give these a little bit of a scrunch. We're going to use lots of glue gel today. Okay. I do have another pot, ladies. Okay. So let's just give that and pop it onto there. Yeah. And so the next piece I want to come into here is actually this. So I can see that I'm going to be able to see through there, and that's not very pretty at the moment, and that's fine. Some of it will get covered by flowers on the top, so I don't need to have every last bit of this cleared, but sometimes it's helpful to have some degree of coverage. So we're just going to pop that under there, and the glue gel is going to allow me to do that quite nicely. There's lots of the ephemera pieces. I've got the packet on the floor, so if I am overly zealous with what I'm doing, then I can add that in as I want. Okay, so at this stage I know I'm going to pop that here, so I definitely need something into there from that point of view. But for the time being, if I now add another blob of glue gel onto there, can pop that there, because I want it to sit above the depth of my mermaid. I can pop that onto there. She's sitting nicely up there. Do I want that on the wonk? I think I'm going to deliberately have it on the wonk. Okay, and now I can see areas that I know look a mess. I can see through, but that's also fine. Okay, so I've picked this piece of lace because I think it's going to, the little curves mirror the scalloping here. Okay, so that's the plan thus far. So we now need to, I'm going to actually start putting some of my floral elements into here. Okay, just shove that over there. Okay, so there are lots of floral elements in the collection. So if I start to tuck some of these in, around, under and over, it'll help to start building up and covering some of those pieces. And I'm using glue gel because this is just going to, again, I can move these around, yeah, as I want to. But let's just have that sitting flat. There we are. So that's going to sit there. Okay. I want to pop that into there, so I'm just going to pop a bit of glue gel onto there, but onto the back of there, and that can sit there. We will be continuing to add in, and that's just fine. Okay, so that's going to sit over there, tilted up, and this way I can use the florals to help build my layers a little bit more. So I now know I need some disguising to do, okay, and that's fine. So I want to add into here because I can see that I've got that cardboard showing there, and I don't want it. Yeah, so I'm just going to tuck in underneath, so I can lift that up, I can knock that down. It's made on with glue gel, so I can pop that into there, tucked underneath there. Yeah, partly coming out, but that's got rid of that white piece that was irritating me there. I've still got more over here, but that's also just fine. We're going to pop, that's going to ultimately sit orphaned up there, and I don't very often orphan things, but we're going to today. So I've got a space here that I don't like, so that floral is going to go into there. Okay, I've got another purple floral over here, and I've still got some bits that are going to irritate me, and that's fine, so I'm going to pop that into there. So this is one of the ephemera pieces, and I now have most of the purple underneath, most of my cardboard weighted out of the way, and now I can concentrate now on building my scene. Okay. So I think, what do I want? I'm going to pop that floral into there. But before I do that, I've got a little bit of sisal, just stringy stuff, yeah. So that's going to build into there. And it's going to sit up there. I can tuck these stringy bits up and under, out the way, pull them apart a bit. It's just adding some extra. They can have a haircut. There's no wrong in chopping bits like this out the way. Here we are, and we're going to pop some of that. Oh, she says. There we are, moving the floral. And this is the advantage of these pieces. Yes, I do live near an airport. We have a flight path not very far away from me. There we are. So those are all there. Those are there. Those are there. Don't like this area, and currently I don't like that, and that is fine. So let's just take some of the more of these ephemera pieces, and let's extend this piece out. It's going to help cover that edge quite nicely. Yeah, without adding too much information. And there we are. Let's just add, she says, with too many pieces lurking. So let's just add that piece underneath there. Let's get the glue gel that's got some glue in it. Okay. So that's going to sit down there. So spiky bits up, spiky bits down. There we are. Okay. So we're going to add a little bit of that, and I don't like the white on this piece where so let's just mute that white down. Okay. I'll tuck that one in there. Hello, Annie. Thank you, Betty. Yeah, it is pretty lace. And this is just a grey, and there's some blue on my ink pad already, on my pieces, so that's okay. So I'm going to pop that into there. So I'm just now adding and layering. I've got more. I've got lots more florals I want to add in. Okay. So that one can tuck into there. Underneath, partly in, partly on, partly under. I'm going to swap that one for that one. It's bigger, and this is going to allow me to pop that one underneath there. It's a better size. Some of this might get a haircut. Well, it will get a haircut. And I'm going to pop a sandy coloured one underneath there. So I'm layering these up as I go. Okay. So I had all of these pieces to use. Okay. So let me just work out what I was doing with them, because it doesn't matter, does it? You build as you go. Do I want that one in there? I'm not too sure that I do. But that works. That one works for me there. So let's just pop that into there. And we've still got lots of pieces here that we're going to tuck in. So this is going to go up under and out, underneath there. Don't particularly. There we are. I'm going to pop it there. It's just going to. I'm going under, over. That can go into there. And I would spend ages now just adding all of these little elements. I've got lots of them, yeah, got lots of them. So there we are. Right, so what am I intending to do with some of these pieces? Well, I think if I pop that there, that will work into there. So that was my clay piece added into there, and I'm going to tuck that one underneath all of that lot, just into there, poking its little head out. Okie dokie. I do want some of this to be showy. Let's just push these all together. Right, that's going to go there, and that's going to go there. I know I'm not sticking them down. Right, eeny, meeny, miny. We've got too many bits and pieces out, and we've still got some florals that I clearly had out at some stage when I was working there. Definitely don't want that one there. Definitely don't want that one there. So let's just pop that there. And I will have these where I like them ultimately. Doesn't mean that we have to use it just because I had it out last time, does it? No, of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. But that one definitely needs to go into there. Thanking you. Okay, that needs some glue on there because it doesn't have any. There we are. Pair of scissors. That is going to drive me mad, so let's just get rid. I do want the texture, and I can tuck more in. So we now have some little bottles that I'm going to tuck in. So there. Where I know I'd add 2 of them because, well, where's that gone? Well, that's it. Oh, there it is. Okie dokie. So let's just add the little message in the bottle into there, and we're going to do the same. We're going to tuck a little message in a bottle over there. And I want another floral under her. There we are, that's better. I'm going to tuck, got that one there, that one there. I want a third one. Don't worry about the label being on the wonk, because that won't stay on the wonk. So my glue gel really is really very helpful for this activity. Okay, so that can sit there. It's just allowing me to have these, and it's building that extra depth. So I've got 5 there, and I've sort of got an S across there. We've got some extra bits of ephemera, so let's just tuck that under there. It's going to stick in some of that glue gel. Okay, we're going to pop a little turtle in there, because why not? And we're going to pop another one into there, because why not? I've only got 2, but that's fine. Okie dokie. And we're going to take some of these pieces. Yeah. Little shell can tuck into there, just poking in and out. Yeah. Okie dokie. I want another floral into there, or do I? We're going to pop a little shell into there. Okay. I'm going to stick that little seahorse is going to tuck into there, and we're going to tuck that one into there, just down in there, just a little bit of extra. Let me just fish for another floral, not of the actually that might work. I still think I want a floral, but maybe that's a softer element. I know leaves are not meant to be up at the funny angle. Yeah. There we are. Thank you, Olympia. Much appreciated. So that can go into there. That can go into there. And then let's just see what we've got. I can't put that into there because it's going to cover the wording, but I can pop that into there. It's just going to fill that up a little bit. I'm going to, unusually for me, to put this piece slightly orphaned up there. I know, horror of horrors. Let me just see what we want to do. Yeah, let's just take that. The glue gel just makes a huge amount of difference. So there we are. She's not quite so floating in the breeze, but she's still there. There we are. Just add that onto there. Let's just re-spin that so it's sitting straight. That works, that works. So I'm tucking over and under, and I'm just building up my layers as I go. I can chop that piece of gauze, separate it out a little bit. And tuck that under there. We're a bit floaty up there, so let's just see what we've got in here. I can't remember whether these are all lit florals or whether actually I've mixed them all up. I just need a small piece. There we are. That's a small floral. Just tuck into there. And that's an even smaller one, but that's okay because that can sit there as well. Cool. Okie dokie. And that means of all the pieces I had out, I've got one of these left out, but actually I don't think I want to pop it in because it's too big now, and I've put lots more paper elements in there. Okay, this is going to have to go in a dimensional frame. There's no question about it. Now then, let's see what else we have lurking. We have all sorts lurking in our things. So I have a little bit of ribbon, two different bits, crinkly ribbon in coordinating tones that I've just tied into a big shabby bow. Okay. So I'm gonna, the way I do these is I fold it in half, so take the bowie bits these bits, fold it in half, glob of that on there, and then I can shuffle that into there. There we are. And they might need a bit more of a trim, but I can worry about that later on. Yeah, so I've got my strings, I've got my bows tucked into there. They're the wrong colours, but in my stash were some pretty pearls. Now this might prove slightly traumatic, because it's always traumatic. There we are. So let's just add in. Do I want to add the colour? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Right, let's just pick up a new glue. The certainly does. So let's just add some bits, and I could pick up my art stones. That would work. So let's just add in some little pearls. Let's just tuck them in, just adding that. I think the coloured one's just that bit softer than adding using white. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's my feeling. I've got, she says, having sent them scattered all the way around the desk. There we are. Let's just add a bit of glue to hit that into there. That one can go there. Let's just make sure he's straight. That's onto there. Can tuck that into the hole. Oh, that one is loose. Well, let's rectify that whilst the going is good. Let's just pop you up into there. Let's stick you onto there. Right, let's pick up a few more of these little pearly bits. They'll be scattered every which way. There is only one way of doing this, and that is to blob a bit of glue down, and drop them down the arm, and they'll settle down, and that will help. There we are. They're just filling in some of the spaces. I don't want that glue, do I? I deliberately don't want that glue. Come on, behave, behave. Well, that's not going to sit in there because there's no glue holding it. So let me just pop the glue where I want it. The bits that aren't going to hold, I can then, because that bit isn't, let me fish that one out, because I can tell you that's not, there's no glue there to hold that. Well, I might have to shake it out later on. There we are, that will work. It's tucked into there. Let's just see what else we might want. Some bits of pearl. Get the right one. Okay, so there we are. That is going to be an absolute pain because it's not sitting up on anything, but there we are. That's just, we will get you anchored into there. There we are, your anchor, you're sitting there. There we are, into that, into that. So we've added a few of those. Oh, she says, well, it helps if you put the right piece on it. And I can see that that's gone walkabouts whilst the going is good. So let's just even that out. Let's just pop the lid on that. No, I don't want that in there. Okay. Let's just tuck you into there, give you a proper squash in. Let's get rid of that bit. Right. Let's we're nearly finished, ladies. We are nearly finished. We just need our white gesso and a little brush. And of course we've taken about 25 tons more than we need. Let's just soften some of these pieces. Because it's all on. It's bouncing a bit because it's all on there. Let's just add. So some of this is going to catch on that white, some of it won't. So it's just some glass glitter. I think I might want a bit more white on that blue. So some of this will ultimately get shaken off. There we are. Some of it won't. So a little bit of glitter. And we've got a mermaid's tail. Yeah, absolutely. Let me just give that a little bit. See, I knew that was going to happen because the glue gel there is not set. And I just need to give it the time to set. Into there. So, let's just get that straightened. There we are, pop that into there, pop that into there. Do we have, what do we have? We do. It says Mermaid's Tale. It says Mermaid's Tale. Right, where did I put that blade? Aha, so we've left the glue dot on the carrier page. My bad. Let's just fish it off, stick it back on. This is when fingers become far easier. No, those are definitely being a pain. Thank you. Let's just add a little bit of sparkle, scattered gently. Can you have too much sparkle? Yeah, I think you probably can. Yeah. Let's just take that one, can go there. Go on then. So we're just going to have little glints of sparkle poking out. Right. Yeah. Is this a cheap project? No. Is it absolutely beautiful? Oh, I think so. Step away from the griddle. Okay, cool. Right, let's just do that. Let's do that. Wouldn't be me, would it? It has to have a bit of splatter. It's not going to have to any other way. And have I got masses of product on here? Absolutely, I have. But hey ho, you only live once, don't you? You might as well have stuff that let's just, could this, yeah. There we are. Let's just pop that down there. Make sure these are all reasonably straight. Could I do this with sparkle? Yeah, probably could. But I'm actually thinking that not sparkle is better. There we are. So ladies, absolutely. So we have our Mermaid's Tale. Prima currently have a challenge for ATCs. Clearly this is going to fail the ATC part of that, but if you're wanting to have a go at doing something, that's just that little bit different, then hopefully you've enjoyed watching me create this. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Maria. Well, I'm glad you like. I think that those are all okay. Let me just pop that over there, clear the rubbish. Oh, she says hitting a computer keyboard. There we are. Pop that into there. So, lots of sparkle, lots of layers, bit of fussy cutting, lots of painting, but a project that I think is actually quite achievable if you just prepare to spend that little bit of time sorting it out. Let me move that over there. There we are. And it can go in a frame long term. There we are. Let me move that down there and over there, and then you can see the whole piece. So I hope that that has been useful. You've enjoyed it. I'm definitely live for Pentart on Tuesday with a different make, entirely different, completely different colour palette. It's always good. Let me just poke that under there for the moment. And I don't know. I'll see what I might feel like to do tomorrow. I might just surprise you. On the other hand, I might not. I might just have the day off. So, ladies, stay safe, look after each other, be kind, enjoy your time and your creativity, and don't forget to share what you've made online so we can all admire your works. Take care, and I will see you soon.